I got to thinking about this week. You can take that from me, thank you. This mission isn't something that just happened. This isn't something that we just decided to do one day. When you start tracing this back, this is something that God had in the works for at least 20 years when you think about this. Because this goes back to a time when Bob Cheatham was pastor here. How many of you were here when Bob Cheatham was pastor here? About half. Not too many. That's a time when I started coming here to church. So that was the connection that we had. And here we are 20 some odd years later. For some reason, God made me your pastor. And we got to do this mission trip. So I want to take the opportunity to show you a handful of pictures. I'm going to ask our team members on occasion to chime in as well, to share some stories about what was going on. For those of you that are up here, there's a mute button on the microphone. Slide it up. Perfect. And we'll be good to go. And the batteries are great. Thank you, Scott, for that. Plus, I got a new toy, so I'm really excited to play with this today. Again, if you have difficulty seeing, please do move to the front. If I get in your way as I move around, because I like to move around when I talk, if you haven't noticed that, please say, "Hey, Pastor Mike, get out of the way." This was our first morning getting ready to go. Not sure how easily you can see it, but I already have that apprehensive look on my face, as not sure if this was a good idea or not. That's enough from the peanut gallery. Here was our first stop. We stopped in Sioux City, Iowa for lunch. This was one of the ways that we were actually able to keep our costs down to just over half of our budget. I had mentioned a couple weeks ago our budget was around $1,200. We raised a little over $1,400 and we spent just over $700 on the trip. This was one of the ways we did it. Dottie was kind enough to get all kinds of food and veggies and water and all sorts of stuff, loaded up a couple of coolers, and we just ate along the way. This was our first stop at a place called Trinity Heights. It is in Sioux City, Iowa. And the attraction is not us eating lunch. It is actually this. This is one of the biggest attractions there. This is a life-sized wood carving of the Lord's Supper. It's somewhat difficult to see. I do have a couple more pictures in here of this as well. But these are all life-size figures of the Lord's Supper. Based on Da Vinci's painting, of course. Thank you. There you go. It was someone from the church, correct? Christiana's gonna go ahead.
There we go. It was someone from the Catholic Church, and it took him 7 years to do the entire carving, and he had friends and family who sat for who posed so that he could get facial features and just get the initial wood carved before he went in and actually did all the intricate work.
Pretty amazing thing to see. It took us a little bit longer to actually get to this site because I missed the exit. So, sorry about that. Yeah, if anybody has wants any more information on this, Dottie picked some stuff up while we were there. As Christiana mentioned, this is kind of a Catholic site. This is a Catholic site. It's not kind of, it is. So there are many statues there. And one of the questions that came up, this is a statue of Mary, and there's a snake, or a serpent at least, with an apple or fruit in its mouth. Maybe someone else has a better explanation for this. My assumption is that they're trying to make the connection between Mary and Eve. Eve being the mother of humanity, essentially, and Mary being the mother of Christ, the mother of the church. That was my take on it. Walter's nodding at me, so I must be close to right. This is a statue of Mary that they have there. What would you say, about 30, 40 feet tall? 40 feet tall.
Mary is 40 feet tall, and I believe Jesus is also 40 feet tall. This is a walk-through park that the Trinity Heights and the Catholic Church and I can't remember the gentleman's name, but this was his dream, to have kind of this walk-through religious experience. And so there's statues of saints and past. I think there were some that were past pastor or fathers in the church, but it's really beautiful, and stained glass, and there's some mosaic tiles in some of the walking path, but they just decided on this site that used to be a college that they wanted to. This gentleman whose idea it was wanted something peaceful, something spiritual, and just something absolutely beautiful. And it is worth walking through because it is a very, very spiritual experience.
It was a good stop, I think, for us on the way. This was us getting ready to leave. Nice little celebration. Dottie? The things that we stopped to see, we did a lot of work, trust me, but there were a few things that we had to stop at.
As a lot of you know, I come from a trucker family, and I've been to a lot of truck stops in my life. But I have never been in a truck stop ever that has had a bidet. So, a bidet. A tush washer.
Alrighty, moving on from that one. The first night we stopped in Kansas City. This was one of those God things that really connected us with a place. Linda received a random phone call one day from Pastor Zo at First Baptist Church of Kansas City, Missouri. One of their members was moving to Fargo and was looking for a church. And it was through that connection that we said, well, hey, we're going to be coming through Kansas City in a few months. Is there any way that you can house us while we're there? And everything worked out perfectly that we were able to stay at First Baptist Church in Kansas City, Missouri. It's almost exactly halfway between here and Abilene. So it was really great to do that. How many people does it take to put together Dottie's cot? The answer was at least 4, I believe. I think we got to. Yes. Yes. We did a quick devotional. The picture on the right is a quick devotional the morning we left First Baptist, Kansas City. This is the second morning. We're still smiling, so you can see it was still very good at that point. We did have a good barbecue the night before. One place we did stop, I'm very glad we did, was the Oklahoma City Bombing Memorial. This is a wall on one of the ends of the site. This is looking toward the other end. For those of you that remember, in 1995, a truck bomb was detonated at the site of the federal building in Oklahoma City, killing 168 people. This is the site of that. There is a memorial there today. The wall that you see on the one end says 901. This one says 903. The bomb went off at 902. So those walls each represent the minute before and the minute after it detonated. That glassy looking thing there, the water reflecting pool, that's actually where the street was at the time of the bombing. There's a field of chairs. There's one chair that represents each of the people that was killed in the bombing. Yes, Isaiah.
There were big chairs representing all the adults who died, and small chairs representing all the children who died in the preschool in the building.
You can see that represented here. You can see the large chairs as he was describing, then there's the small chair right in the middle.
And the cement wall in the back of those chairs is actually the only remaining wall of the federal building, and you can see char marks, and it, you realize, one, how big it was, and two, how many people were there. This big tree that's surrounded by the concrete there is 100 years old, and it was the only tree that survived the bombing in that area. And so they call that the survivor tree. And it is surrounded by smaller trees, and those trees were planted in honor of the people who came and helped the first responders, the police, the fire department, and they stand guard around the survivor tree.
That building in the background is the museum at the memorial. We didn't have the time to stop there, unfortunately, but there is the museum there as well. There is a sign that they have put up there, and I'll read it for you if you're unable to read it from where you're sitting. It says, you are entering the area. You'd think I hadn't read this before. I've read it about 4 times getting ready for today. You are entering the area where the Alfred P. Murrah building once stood. The granite used on this pathway was salvaged from the Murrah building. The field of empty chairs is a tribute to the 168 Americans who were killed April 19, 1995. The 9 rows represent the 9 floors of the former Murrah building. Each person's chair is positioned in the row that corresponds to the floor on which they worked or were visiting. The 5 westernmost empty chairs honor those who were killed outside the Murrah building. It was a sad place to visit, but I think it was a very important place for us to stop and get to. There was the wall. Go ahead, Dottie.
The fence that you're looking at still today has tributes to everybody who has died in the bombing. They have a marathon every year to honor them. You will find T-shirts up there. You will find bib flags of the numbers of the runners. There is stuff that has been up there possibly from the beginning to almost a brand new teddy bear that we saw when we were there.
Across the street from the site, there is a church. At that church, there is this memorial. This is a statue of Christ facing away from the building site. If you look at the wall that is to the left, on the left side of the picture, there are 168 holes in that wall, each one representing one of the people that was killed. The caption on this statue is, "And Jesus wept." And then we got to Texas, and we met a couple people. Those of you that don't know the gentleman in the middle with the hat and glasses, that's Pastor Bob. To the left, to our left, is Amy. I think you probably recognize Laura. I would hope. Yes. They fed us very, very well when we were down there. The first night we got there, they had Tex-Mex ready for us with homemade tamales, which were just unbelievable. And Ron had something to do with moon pies, so we threw moon pie. This was actually the only picture that anybody took of where we stayed. We were staying at the First Baptist Church of Merkel. Okay. First Baptist Church there, and this is an auxiliary building that they have. They have a big youth area. There's a big common area, and then there's 3 classrooms. And this was one of the classroom areas that we were able to stay in while we were up there. The work that we did, and again, we didn't get a lot of pictures of the place that we worked on Saturday, simply because we were working. I mean, there was a lot to do. What we did was there was an old trailer that they had used as a parsonage in the past. They had let someone stay there that needed a place to stay. Unfortunately, there were some issues with being able to pay rent, and at some point, the family that was staying there abandoned it and left a lot of garbage in there. There was also a leak in the shower, I believe, that they didn't tell anyone about, that leaked for a year. Was that right? It leaked for about a year. Naturally, that's going to cause a lot of damage in that area. We were throwing out mattresses and box springs and dressers and all kinds of stuff in there. And it took us 5-6 hours maybe, but we got everything done. having some fun. I'll just leave that up for just a moment here.
That little knob in the back there behind Christiana's hand, that's actually Ron's head. He decided to take a little... Yeah, he was on the outside for some reason.
I wasn't driving, no. That was Dottie's van. What we did was Dottie and I both drove. For some reason, we did the guys and the girls. The guys were in my car, the girls were in Dottie's car. And we got to know Isaiah quite well. This was us having lunch that day. Lunch that day was barbecue. Like I said, they fed us very well while we were down there. More delicious.
Now,
barbecue.
mind you, this food that's being brought in was from the church members.
Yes.
It wasn't just, there was the small churches taking care of each other again.
Yeah. This was all at Builders Baptist Church, like Dottie was saying. They all signed up to bring meals, and they fed us very, very well. This is Dottie's backup camera. It just looked really neat because the tailgate was open, and she was backing up. And so it's just pretty. It looks awesome, yes. I'll just let this roll. There was a wire hanger on the ground, and we were messing around a little. We were done at this point, and we were a little goofy, to say the least. We were done cleaning up.
See, none of the people have been down really to the far south, so I told them if you see anything, you don't know what it is, don't put your hand there. There are some nice little animals down there that will bite, hurt, kill, so don't do that.
There was a spider that was bigger than my head.
It was a size of maybe a quarter.
It was bigger than my head, I'm pretty sure.
It was a quarter.
It was tiny.
Oh, well, in this trailer,
It was actually very small.
in the trailer there, it had been sitting for about a year and a half, 2 years. And so there had been animals coming in and out. And I went to a portion of the trailer where the washer would sit, and then there was 3 small cupboards up on the wall. And I was just sure that as soon as I opened that cupboard, there was going to be a possum in my face or something. It was just, parts of it were a little scary to... Parts of it were really scary to just open the door and wonder what might be living there. And I'm thinking, unfortunately, this trailer is not going to get saved. It's they left it pretty nasty, so it's too bad.
You can see the dumpster here. This dumpster, it's one of those large ones, probably, I would guess, about 4 feet tall, maybe 20 feet long, something like that. It was empty when we started, completely empty when we started. This is all of the junk was in that trailer that we had to clear out. You can see the dresser there in the background. There's a mattress or a box spring. There's another angle of it. But that's what we were able to clean out of there. And this was a project that church needed done quite desperately. They were not able to do this. They did not have the physical ability to get in there and actually clean everything out. So that's what we did when we went down there on Saturday. It was we were able to get this cleaned up a little bit, and put it into a state where they can try to do something with it. The church has this. There's property that sits on it. What they wind up doing with it, if they use it or if they sell it, all of this needed to be done. It was something that they were not able to do. Sunday morning, Pastor Bob asked me to preach at Builders Baptist. Since we were in Texas, I naturally talked about football. It was fun. Sunday evening, we joined him at the church in his trailer park, Pleasant Hills Country Church. They did a wonderful job with this. I didn't see the trailer, and we'll see some more pictures of the trailer here in just a little bit. This trailer that they're in was a former meth house. They used to make methamphetamine there. That's how Bob was able to acquire it. And they cleaned it up. Our men's group sent down some funds to help them out with the drywall on the ceiling, and they've turned it into a very nice little church that they can have worship and they have dinner at.
Before they put the drywall up in the church, Pastor Bob and Amy had the children of the church and anybody of the church, and every beam in that church is covered with a Bible passage or an inspiration passage quote from Christ, written all on all the sides to, I don't want to use the word purify, but to bless the house. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. You can kind of see here Bob standing at his pulpit, which is just a couple of 4x4s made into a cross. And that's where the chairs are set up. And then after service is done, they move the chairs, they put out tables, and that's where you have fellowship. All in the same space. They utilize this space very, very well. They put in a handicap accessible restroom. Here's looking out toward that space. Behind that's the kitchen area where the delicious, delicious food is made. And that's us having a good time.
Okay. I'm very photogenic. I don't know if you've noticed that, but yeah, it's awesome.
I'm painting a chihuahua.
Yeah.
Here's some pictures from the outside of the building. This is where we would be cleaning up the next day. We did a lot of yard work around there the next day, a lot of things that just needed to be done. They fed us dinner that night, roast beef, right? I think it was wonderful, wonderful. And Amy's sister actually lives there. What was her first name again? Jan. Jan. Amy's sister Jan lives there and helps keep things up. Christiana found a friend. I got a new shirt. Unfortunately, that's the best that shirt fit me. That's the one that we have sitting up at the pulpit here. That's as close as I could get it on. He was out of adult sizes. Even if he would have had an adult size, I'm not sure if it would have done me too much good. Isaiah found a friend. Just some more pictures of us having dinner with the people from their church there. This is Monday morning. We came to clean up. There were a lot of old boards and a lot of broken cinder blocks and things like that around the property. And Bob, he had an accident when he was here. He had a car accident. Still has some physical limitations from that, unfortunately. So a lot of the things that need to be done, he's just not able to do. So that was another big project that we did. We got the grounds cleaned up. This is the parking area. Someone donated a bus to them, so he's able to drive that around, pick people up if need be, take the kids to the pool, things of that nature. There's good old Pastor Bob. A lot of yard work that morning. I think this day was even hotter than the Saturday. I was a lot more worn out that day than before. We cut down a couple of tree limbs. Probably not the safest way to do it, but we got it done. Nobody got killed, and we're all back alive. Here's some more look at the yard area that was cleaned up.
I went down to see this place. When we went down to go see this, it was almost as bad, probably a little bit worse because there was holes in the floor than the trailer that we cleaned out. There was no grass. It was all just dirt. No ramps, you were climbing up literally cinder blocks to get into it to do the repairs.
There's also a little bit of work that needed to be done inside. Whoever installed the main door to get in there didn't insulate it at all. They put the door in, then they put up trim. So Laura got to do a little bit of caulking around the door frame. So hopefully now there aren't really hot or really cold drafts coming into their church throughout the year. Here, Dottie, I think, is trying to run into us and kill us.
That would be Mike pulling out in front of us? Or was Ron driving? I don't know. I was parked.
This was the last evening that we were in Texas. We just had a good time with Bob and Amy and some of the people from the church. Amy, if you notice behind Bob's shoulder there. Dottie was trying to set up a camera shot here, and we're all just kind of staring, waiting for her to get the camera ready. But she did, and we got a few very nice pictures of the whole group together there. There's our former pastor there. Yes.
Where that, in the back behind Bob and Amy, where there's light and that kind of barn door looking window, that is their baptistry. And Isaiah went exploring and looked in there, and I'm hoping before they baptize anyone that they cleaned it out, because there were scorpions in there. So, yeah, there was ants and scorpions. The joys of Texas, you share your places with bugs, but so that it's a really cute church. It's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and how many people would you say?
I think they said like 45 on a regular basis come.
So on the kids, lots of kids.
More kids than us, literally.
And Bob and Amy set up a vacation Bible school between Builders Baptist, which is where this is, and Pleasant Hills Country Church, which is the one in the trailer park. And they had a really good turnout this year doing that. So I think they're going to continue doing that and, you know, reach the kids. And I was very pleased to see that how many kids came to both of those churches and how they reach out to their kids, and
They have 2 adults